Hello, I'm Heather Gregg. My tagline is all the arts, all the time. And today I want to talk to you about a Poetry Film Club festival, which I went to show my poetry film. And this happened in Bristol and it was held in October 2025. So, very brief description. A poetry film or a video poem is where there are three different parts to it. You've got the words of the poem, you've got the accompanying visuals, and you've also got the sound. The sound may be a piece of music, or it could be sound effects, it could be recorded sound that's live in the place. And you basically, those three things come together. Now I must say it was an absolute delight to have my poetry film chosen to be used. I opened my email box and there was a message there, and it started off saying, we've been looking at the submissions for the Poetry Film Festival and our criteria are, and I just thought, this has the whole look and feel of, but you didn't make it, or we're sorry we couldn't receive or accept your submission. And I was going inwardly, and then I did a double take because the message actually was, yes, we want to show your poetry film, which was just delightful. Happy days, happy news. It's called Rescue, and when I made it, it was a lot of work in an unheated room, which involved doing a huge collage, cutting it up into strips, doing stop motion animation with the strips, so you're sort of moving them a little bit at a time. And I remember being in the thick of this, the mess of it all, and thinking nobody is ever going to see this. And I just kept going anyway because I'd had this idea. And then it had received an opening. So first of all, I want to say this to encourage absolutely everybody watching who is a creative, who is making work in any kind of art form and finding they're getting a lot of rejections, or you feel like there isn't a market or whatever. When you hear those voices, press on. Don't stop to argue with them, just press on. Because we do not know when there's going to be an open door, when there's going to be a yes instead of the no. And please be encouraged, keep going. And I want to see your work, so there we go. There's at least one nosy person out there who wants to see what you're making. So, the Poetry Film Festival was taking place in Bristol, which is not next door to where I live. But I reckon that sometimes you need to go and physically be in the room. That's kind of like a little be in the room in quotation marks. But I thought, yes, this is new to me, newish to me, but I need to work to find out who the other people are in the UK who are also making poetry film, and they're going to be a lot of them in the room. I got that feeling. So you need to be in the room as well. There was no distance link up for this particular festival, and it was be in the room or don't be. My work was going to be shown anyway, but I wanted to meet the people, and that is exactly what happened. I met people who were makers, I had chats with them. Some of them were on the way to getting sandwiches, and somebody else on the way back from getting sandwiches, and somebody else while I was eating the sandwiches. And they were all quality conversations with people I would not otherwise have met. So just encourage you to try and go to festivals of whatever art form you're interested in, because there is a part of being in the room. For me it was quite scary because I didn't know anybody. I therefore knew that there was going to be 100% more knowledge of me by the people there, and 100% more knowledge of me of the people that were there too. So it seemed like a worthwhile endeavour. Now, before I tell you exactly what happened during the festival, I do want to give you flag up a particular book which is great for the background of poetry film, because a lot of people have been asking me, well, what is poetry film? And here's the best long answer you're going to get: The Poetics of Poetry Film, Film Poetry, Video Poetry, Lyric Voice and Reflection by Sarah Tremlett, who I met and had a really good conversation with at the conference at the festival. So she has taken pages and pages to go into the history of film poetry and who are its exponents. She's got interviews with them. She's got a list of festivals that you can send your films away to or go to see what other people are making. And that was a huge part of the film festival day for me, was seeing what other people were making. And part of the reason why I went was because the people who were running this were listed in here in this book. Sarah Cameron and Jane Glennie was speaking at it, and also we had Helen Dewbery as festival director, and also we had a workshop that was being run by Lucy English, and they're all truly featured in here, and I knew that this was going to be a place to meet these people, and that's the way it turned out to be. So we had the best. Why I'm telling you all this, by the way, is because the festival day I felt was such a success. I'm really hoping it runs next year. So if you're interested in this art form, then please look out for it next year. If you want to make for it, do make. And if you're just intrigued, do keep an eye out for it to come along. Probably run again in the autumn. We were on a boat, on a lightship, a retired lightship for this, which was just hugely special to begin with as a place. And the history of the lightship, former lightship in the Bristol docks, was that it had been used for about 140 years old, and had been used in a lot of wars and in spaces where it would be towed out to give indication there's a sandbank, there's low depth of water, and to be a place that people could come on board, sailors could come on board and get refreshment and rest. Which is lovely, just brilliant. So did that for so many years, and then it was decided that it wasn't needed anymore, and it was set on fire for 3 days, blazed, was left a wreck, and then a couple walking past just said, hey, let's renovate this and have parties on it, and they did, and it's for rent, and for that very purpose, and it's in Bristol, and it felt wonderful, and it was just the right size this year to be all in together and feel like you are in this one ship together. We're all on the good ship. And it was just an incredibly enjoyable day. So I'll run through what happened, what we did this year, and give you an idea of what it was like. So it started at 11 with less people there, and then of course people were driving and in transit and then arrived, and it just got more and more people during the day. We started off watching 10 films from the Poetry Film Collective presented by Barry Hollow, and I'm going to have some links at the end for who was there. I'm also going to correct the light is a bit too bright. Yeah, it's kind of odd lighting today. I'm pressing on with recording because the hour has changed and it's already in the afternoon, and I want to get this recorded before it is utterly dark. So, 10 films from Poetry Film Collective. This is a collective that meets once a month online as part of the film club, Poetry Film Club, and it is a place to critique and see each other's films and so forth. It's pretty full. There's got 24 participants already, so we'll see if there's room for more in the future or not, but I think it's a great idea to have somewhere that you can actually show your work. I know that I greatly prize writing groups that I find where the critique is good because of the encouragement to make something and come back and go away writing a bit more critique, just make it really, really good. One of the key things of the day was a book launch for how to make a poetry film, if that's the question you're asking yourself. This is by the festival co-director Helen Dewbery, and it is literally starting at the start and saying you've got an idea for a poem, what's going to happen, how do you make it, and then it steps you through different activities. It shows you scripts that have been used and how they have been written in, where you mark, oh here, let's have a cut here, for example. So there's examples from Ludo, which is by Sarah Cameron. She kindly let us see. So you can see that it's handwritten in. where the cuts are going to appear as the words are said on screen. Sometimes you can have one person. In my case, in my film, I was doing all of the jobs there, including all the editing and the whole thing. But some people work in teams, so you may have someone who's a videographer who's particularly gifted and specialised in how things look visually in recording and editing. You have maybe the poet, you've got somebody who reads it, maybe the poet, may not be. You've also got someone who may be providing a sound bed, underlying what else is happening. And quite often you get music that's instrumental and kind of bringing the tone of the poem, especially if it's a dark or threatening one. You kind of get this, soundscape is a better way to put it. There's lots of different ways in which it could be done. And the poetry film could just be a poet reading his work or her work, or it could be the words on the screen appearing, or it could be visuals and the words on the screen appearing and hearing somebody reading it. It's all different variations of the above and lots of different visual formats. I happen to work with collage and some paint, and then I used a camera to do stop motion, so that was the process for mine. I also had written the poem, read it out as well, and I put an effect to my voice so it's kind of echoey, so it wasn't just straightforwardly voice recording. You have so many options, and Helen's book will talk you through them. I recommend it to you. And as I say, also more particularly as well for the background of the whole genre and lots of different variations of style and examples, the book by Sarah Tremlett, which is sort of more international. But the great thing about Helen's book is that she has been teaching workshops on how to make your own poetry films and talking people through the process. So that book, you're actually getting the benefit of all her years of experience. I think it's something like 14 years. Anyway, getting back to the ship. So we had the book launch, which was great. We had a break for lunch, and then we saw poetry films from Scotland and Ireland and Wales. And I will try and give a link to some of the particular people whose films were shown at the end. But that was a section where people would use the Gaelic, the Welsh, and then have subtitles in English so you could understand them, or a mixture of various things. And sometimes it was just brilliant to hear a language that you might not know deeply. Like I do not know Welsh, but just from the voice of the person who was reading, you got the sounds of the language and you got the sense of it from the voice and the tone of the reader. So that was very insightful. That gave us a little overview. Then in the middle of the afternoon we had Jane Glennie speaking, talking about fragments and fabrications, poetry film between archives, archaeology and AI. So she is distinctive for her style, where she uses a lot of still images and the effect of this kind of flickering on the screen. In her presentation, she was raising the issue of AI, and in using AI, that it starts to introduce its hallucinations, its inaccuracies. And what do you do with that? And she actually asked that question of the room, what do you do with it? Then after an afternoon sort of tea break, we had a workshop, Writing Words for Poetry Film, practical workshop with Lucy English. And she got people to look around the boat, take photographs of particular objects, and it had recently had a party in it, so there were lots of different interesting things. Plus there were very characteristic objects placed around and about. And then to sit and start writing words, and she stepped people through what kind of things to write about as a start for a poem, which would be linked to the place, the sense of place. Then we had a break for tea. Then we had the Audience Award, where we watched the 12 selected poetry films from the International Poetry Film Competition, and the audience selected the winner, and it was announced, and that was the end. So brilliant day, and as you can hear, there were lots of opportunities to see films. They had the 10 in the morning, and then you had the 12 at night, and that was, I find, fascinating to see a quick overview of what is out there. And the selected audience award had a huge variety. People were complaining and saying, well, it's really hard to vote, but it was hard to vote because there was such a variety of different kinds of film. So I'll try and bring up on screen the list of the different people who were shown for the 12 films. And just to say that the final selected winner was Crossing Paths by Rebecca Goldsmith. And actually I was totally enchanted by one called Heartlands, Earth and Bones by Kerry Morgan, with a dance that was done by Patsy Brown Hope. Heartlands, Earth and Bones. I thought it was fantastic, and it is available to see online, so I'll give you a link to watch that. So I hope this has raised interest with those of you watching to say, well, what is portrait film? Well, that sounds interesting. And I'll give links to some examples to view, and hope that helps to answer your queries.